Hello, everyone. We will go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for joining today. We are so excited to get our lunch and learns back up off the ground. This is going to be such a good topic today. I will go ahead and introduce myself. I am Kara Winowski. I'm with BioOrigin Specialty Products, and I am the chair of Women of Flexo, along with my co-chair, Catherine Haynes from All Printing Resources. We have just recently moved into the position of chair and co-chair, and we are so excited to get to work together with this amazing group of women. A little bit about Women of Flexo. For those of you who may not be familiar, we are comprised of industry members who work to support and promote women in the flexographic industry through a variety of opportunities. If you would like to learn more about us, you can visit our website at womenofflexo.org, and you can follow us on LinkedIn. So Women of Flexo is made up of 4 subcommittees. Leadership development promotes female engagement and increases their visibility in the flexographic industry. Recruitment and engagement actively engages with our community to network, empower recruitment, and reinforce retention. Marketing and strategy increases the awareness of our group and defines our long and short-term goals. And mentorship develops relationships between members new to the flexo industry and those with experience. So if you want to learn more about Women of Flexo and what we're all about, like I said, you can visit our website, womenofflexo.org. You can also reach out to us directly. Here is a list of contacts of each of our chairs of our subcommittees. And then also make sure you're following our LinkedIn page. That's where we post all of our content, our events, and everything Women of Flexo. So make sure you follow us there. And now I'm going to pass this over to Alex Guyett. She is the chair of the mentorship committee, and she's going to give you some information on the mentorship program that is coming up soon.
Thanks, Kara. Yeah, so I'm so excited to listen to Emily today talk about the importance of mentorship, and I hope you guys are too. And if at the end of this you're like, how do I get a mentor? Well, one of the things we do at Women of Flexo is provide a professional mentorship program. So our goal is to promote the development of this mentoring that is really attentive to differences in gender, race, culture, and generational lines. We were founded in 2020, and Emily, who will speak today, was the founding member of the subcommittee, so really a wealth of resources. So far, we've had 3 full sessions and 34 mentor pairs go through. Next slide. So what is the program? Well, we pair women from all over the industry. So we welcome people to sign up. We have a questionnaire, and then we try to put women together that have similar career paths or maybe specialties. The formal program runs from September to May, and in that time, we ask mentors and mentees to meet at least once a month, and then we also host networking webinars every other month so that everyone in this sort of formal program can meet each other and expand their network more. As part of this program, we share mentoring and menteeing guides. So if you've never been part of a formal mentorship program, we give you lots of guides and meeting plans and goal setting documents to help, as well as, a whole subcommittee to help answer questions and provide guidance and help along the way. Next program, or next slide. So what are the requirements for mentors? We really just ask that you be open to sharing your experiences as guidance, making yourself available to the mentee, looking to build connections with the mentee and hopefully the larger group of mentors and mentees that we get together. Be able to give advice beyond just the pat on the back. I think, we're looking for meaningful connections, and be willing and open to create an open, honest space, to help your mentee grow. Next slide. And for mentees, really, we just ask that you bring questions and goals to work on, be on time and prepared for meetings with your mentor. Also be open to building those connections with your mentor as well as others in the program, and be early in your career or new to Flexo. So we don't have specific age or experience guidelines, but typically we're looking to pair people newer in their careers or newer to Flexo at least with people with more experience. So yeah, if you're interested, signups for the next round close August 16th. You can follow the QR code or use this website. You can also go to the womenofflexo.org website to find the link as well. And if you have questions about it or concerns, feel free to reach out to the Women of Flexo Mentorship Gmail or my own email. I'm happy to answer any questions. Back to you, Kara.
Thanks, Alex. Okay, so I am excited to introduce our speaker today. Emily Kalshoven has been part of Women of Flexo since its inception. Like Alex said, she was the previous chair of Women of Flexo, and it was such an honor to get to work with her over this last year in this organization. So Emily has spent the last 5 years working with McDermott Graphic Solutions. She holds an MS in graphic communications and a BA in biological sciences with a minor in education from Clemson. She has over 6 years in the Flexo industry, and she has experience in sales, marketing, and technical roles. Today, she focuses her career around creating long-term strategic growth through trusted relationships. And like I just mentioned, she was the chair of Women of Flexo for 2023 and 2024. And before that, she chaired the Women of Flexo Mentorship Subcommittee um, from its inception in 2020. So she has some experience in being mentoring people. Having personally and professionally grown from the benefits of sponsorship, mentorship, and coaching, Emily is excited to share these tools for development with the Women of Flexo Network. Emily believes that everyone can grow and that identifying where you want to go is the first step. All right, welcome, Emily.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Kara. And Alex, thank you. Super excited to be here with you guys today. It's a big passion project for me to talk about this stuff. As Kara mentioned, I did this for a little bit with the Women of Flexo, and I've also used these tools in my own life. So can't say enough good things about the WAF mentorship program. Really encourage people to join that. We've seen some really incredible relationships come out of those. So again, thanks so much everyone for joining. It looks like we have a good number of attendees on. I'm going to talk a little bit today about sponsorship, mentorship, and coaching. So not just mentorship, but if you have any questions along the way, please do put them into the Q&A section. There's a Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and we will have some time for Q&A at the very end. So with that, let's dive right in. So what I hope to offer you today, we're going to cover a couple of different topics. I hope to arm you with information about these relationships, because that's what they are, is relationships. I want to encourage you to leverage your strengths to your advantage. I want to share some strategies for finding the right person to be a sponsor, mentor, or coach. And lastly, we'll wrap up by kind of talking about how these different things can shape our collective futures. So with that, we're going to talk about what I call the trifecta of sponsorship, mentorship, and coaching. And I really like this graphic. I'll just touch on it real briefly, but I like this because it's a circle and it's continuous, and this is an ongoing journey, right? So we'll go into detail about each of these different relationships in the next section. But really just want to emphasize that, we are a social species, right? We learn things from others. It's in our very nature. So each of these different relationships really nourishes a different need for us and can be super pivotal in the professional and personal journey. So let's talk about sponsorship first. We'll touch briefly on some of the key characteristics of sponsorship and what that means, what that looks like. So sponsorship is it's a relationship where a senior leader or someone with influence within an organization actively advocates for an individual's career advancement. So they work to actively promote the individual's achievements and potential from within the organization. So it's very much a inviting upward sort of dynamic. They'll focus on visibility and opportunities and help you to gain exposure within your organization. So typically these people have some sort of influence or decision making in the process of planning for career growth for people. They can really be the person to advocate and be the voice when you're not quite in that position just yet. So there is one caveat here, which we'll touch on more later, but you kind of have to earn a sponsor, and we'll kind of dive into that. But sponsors can be really, really crucial for being the person to advocate for you behind closed doors in those big decision-making conversations. So some examples of sponsorship. A department head might sponsor a high potential employee for a leadership development program. My organization literally has a hypo program for high potential employees, and they have to be sponsored to get that invite to be a part of that. Another example would be an influential executive may advocate for a talented team member to be considered for a key project. So again, behind closed doors, they're the ones saying, hey, we should look at this person and give them a chance, right? So really, really powerful in creating big moves in your career trajectory. So jumping over to mentorship that Alex touched on earlier. So mentorship is a little bit different from sponsorship in that it's more of a long-term ongoing relationship, right? I think of mentorship very much as walking the walk alongside you, right? From someone that has walked that path before or a similar path, right? So these are often more mentee-driven relationships where the mentee is saying, hey, I want to look at these things. I want to focus on these things. And how can you help me? Right. So this is a little bit more of a blend between personal and professional development. We'll touch on that in the next slide with some examples, but this is really kind of a blend of mentee's life, including their career, personal growth, professional growth, and work-life balance, right? So it's a little bit more informal and a little bit more flexible, right? So depending on the type of mentorship relationship that you're in, you can have a formal or an informal mentor. With the Women of Flexo program, it's a little bit more formal. It's a little bit more structured just because, they provide the packet and the guidance and the kind of expectations of what you should be accomplishing. But truly, even with that, it's very much your own, and it's encouraged to make it your own, right? So less structured than coaching. We'll talk on coaching in the next section. But yeah, truly, their mentors are there to provide guidance, support, and encouragement based off of their own experiences and expertise. So some examples of mentorship. A senior executive might mentor a junior employee by sharing insights on navigating office politics, right? That's something that if you are brand spanking new to a work system or a group, what have you, having someone to kind of share some advice and some strategies can be really, really helpful, because people learn on their own, but a lot of times it's helpful to have someone guide you and help you kind of advance that learning process. Second example would be a seasoned entrepreneur may guide a startup founder through the challenges of building a new business, right? So another example of, if you've never started your own new business, you only know so much, right? You don't know what you don't know. So having someone that has walked through that in their life can be really, really advantageous to you if they're willing to share. Okay. One thing I do want to touch on here that, I recall from the WAF mentorship program is one thing that does come up a lot for women. Me personally, I'm not a mother, right? But I did see a lot of friends and colleagues that really sought out how to balance motherhood with their career, right? And so they would actively seek a mentor that has, gone down that path and can share some strategies, because if you're not in that, you don't know everything that it takes to be a part of it and to find that balance, right? So that can be super impactful, especially for a group like the Women of Flexo. Okay. So then coaching, we'll talk a little bit about coaching. So some of the key characteristics of coaching, it's a lot more structured. It's typically more goal-oriented and time-bound, typically more short-term. So this is where someone is helping you to work on something very specific, improve performance in that particular area, right? So with that, you're looking for specific measurable goals, and these can be, typically more like work related, a little bit more on the professional side of things, and a little bit more direct, right? So thinking of some sort of like a sports coach, they're going to help you figure out how to do this one thing, right? Granted, you can always like continue that, learn other things, what have you, but just based on the different relationships. So these are a little bit more formal, and there is more accountability. So it's very much expected that they're going to give you some tasks and you're going to work on those tasks, right? These have more regular structured meetings with clear expectations and progress tracking. So super helpful and very, very nourishing to be poured into by a coach that's going to help you meet the goals that you're setting out for yourself. Okay, so some examples of coaching. All right, so a manager may provide sales coaching to a team member struggling to meet their targets, right? A lot of times coaching can come in the form of like a manager being the one to coach you, right? Because they've oftentimes been that person. They've walked in those shoes. They know what you need to do, and they're going to help you define some very clear expectations of what you need to do to meet your goals. A different one that I really like for this topic is a presentation coach may help an executive polish their public speaking skills, right? So a really great example that you can be at any level in your organization, in your career path, and still benefit from some of these things, right? So we're always going to learn, right? It's as much as we're willing to put in. So I really love that one. Okay, so let's say we have decided that we want to dive into mentorship, sponsorship, or coaching with someone. What do you do now, right? So some really helpful advice that I personally wish I had known before I started down this journey myself, but I've learned along the way and have received a lot of guidance on a few different steps that I think are really, really meaningful. Capture your value. Start by looking at what the pieces of your own story are, right? Assess what you bring to the table today, and create a catalog, right? So it's really helpful to try and figure out, when you're trying to figure out where you want to go, what you want to work toward, establishing what you do already have under your belt, right? So this could include job titles, certifications, awards, committees that you've served on for a technical association, articles that you've written. Maybe you're not so much in the spotlight, but you write the heck out of an article, right? That's meaningful. That's really, really powerful. So capturing all that information, being able to look at that for yourself, and then also being able to share that with your coach, mentor, or sponsor when the time comes, that's really, really helpful. Next one is know what you're working toward. Maybe you don't have a like super clear idea of what that looks like, but start identifying people who model the behaviors that you want to grow in and keep tabs on that. So you want to have an end goal in mind, which can be tough if you don't know what you're working toward, but to start, putting some shape to that is really, really powerful. So, yeah, basically if you want to, start making moves, figure out what direction you want to point in. All right. And then this one's fun. So calling back to, my little fun fact about myself that I studied biology and minored in education. It's really meaningful to me to understand humans as a species and kind of like who we are and how we operate and kind of what the developmental process is for each of us. And one of those keys is that in any group, you're going to have some sort of like culture and set of rules, spoken or unspoken. So it's really helpful to observe influential team members and start looking at your similarities and your differences to try and figure out where each person fits and kind of what those rules are, spoken or unspoken, right? I will be the first one to say that I typically want to challenge every set of rules set in front of me. And sometimes that can come off as disrespectful, right? So that's something that I've had to learn, right? You want to look out for yourself and learn the difference between innovation and insubordination. So definitely learn the rules of the system that you're in. And that can give you some good guideposts for what direction you want to point. And then yeah, the next piece of that is, learn those rules and then start looking at how you're showing up under those expectations, right? It's helpful to take like a good, honest look at how you're showing up in that group system. So from there, plan the work and work the plan, right? It's as you're kind of like coming to form this idea of what direction you want to head in, you want to have an idea of where you want to go before you can start heading there, right? So create a system for planning and tracking your strategy. And I say this and I know that it's very much a gray area, right? Like, what is a system? What does that mean? How do I do it, right? But it really depends on you, right? So maybe you are super organized and you want to dive headfirst into a gigantic spreadsheet with every single detail laid out. And if that's you, great, like go for it, right? But if you're a little bit more on the creative side or like just really just feel a little daunted by all of this, just anything, right? You can create like a slide deck or a dashboard or a Prezi or even just a page in your sketchbook where you can like zoom out and look at the big picture, right? As a whole, that's also great, right? So just whatever you can do to get yourself set up to define a strategy and then regularly review it, as long as you're going back to it and trying to keep going at it, right? That's the key. So happy to answer any questions on that. I know that one's a little bit fuzzy, but it is helpful to have a plan in place. All right, so finding a sponsor, mentor, or coach. How do you find those, right? Number one, you're going to want to start by identifying the right person for each role. The person that may be a good sponsor for you may not be available to be a mentor to you or a coach to you. It all depends. So really just looking at that, looking for individuals with relevant experience, expertise, interpersonal skills that you want to emulate, that can effectively guide you and support you in achieving your goals. Second one would be build a relationship and establish expectations, right? So the key here is that all of these are relationships, right? You want to make sure that you're not trying to like use someone, right? And like make sure that you're communicating with them, that you're, setting those expectations up front, initiating conversations and doing the legwork on your side. And then be open to feedback and willing to invest time and effort into that partnership. And then lastly, say you do get into that relationship with them and, you guys have started, right? You want to ensure a successful and mutually beneficial partnership. So regularly review your progress, communicate openly, and remain committed to your personal and professional growth, right? And I think it's fair to ask for your mentor, sponsor, coach to show up the same. Okay, so these are fun, and bear with me because I know these are a little bit corny and, what have you, but they're kind of a jumping off point. Take it, do with it what you will. But these are just kind of some like basic things that you could say to someone after you've built up some rapport. So say that you want to ask someone to be your mentor. You could say, I've been following your career with great admiration, especially your innovative approaches and leadership within our industry. Would you be open to a mentoring relationship where I could learn from your expertise and insights to further my own professional development? Very clear, very communicative, very much establishes that like you look up to them and you are asking for a relationship, right? So again, take this, make it your own, make sure that it makes sense for the person that you're asking it of. All right. And then a coach, right? So the coaching, like I said, is a little bit more focused and specific. So have some goals in mind of what you want coaching in. You could say, I've been impressed with your track record. I'm eager to elevate my own performance and leadership capabilities. Would you be interested in establishing a coaching relationship to help me achieve these goals? So keeping this focused is key for a coach. And, again, time-bound, very focused goals, very specific goals will be helpful in the ask for a coach. Okay. And then lastly, sponsor. So again, kind of a big caveat here is that you should kind of already have an existing relationship with someone before you ask for them to sponsor you, right? So this is one of those big ones where, if you're asking someone to sponsor you, you're asking them to put their name tied with yours, right? So you want to make sure that you're showing up and doing the work to be able to ask for these things, right? So it's a little bit cyclical. It's a little bit not quite a perfect straight line, but you can certainly work toward this and build up that rapport over time. So you can say, I've been deeply inspired by your leadership and the impact you've made in our field. I'm seeking a sponsor who believes in my potential and can help open doors to new opportunities for growth and advancement. Would you consider being that influential advocate for me as I aim to take my career to the next level, right? And maybe they say no, right? That is like a big risk that comes with asking someone something like this, but those who don't ask do not receive. So again, let me know if you have any questions about that. So from here, say that you've requested one of these different relationships and they say yes, right? Say they say yes. That would be ideal, right? From there, you would want to come to some sort of agreement of what that looks like for both of you, right? Clear expectations up front. So you would want to agree on things like timing, expectations, deliverables, meeting formality. Just make sure that, like, if they're agreeing to it, make sure that you both know what that means for each of you, right? And then as you go throughout the relationship, you want to regularly check in and ensure mutual commitment along the way, right? You want to make sure that the relationship is still serving both of you and that you're keeping your end of the deal. One thing that I did not put into my slide deck, but I think it's a fun little note on this slide, is that a lot of the feedback that I've heard from mentors over the years, is that they got something big out of a mentoring relationship also. Not being the one that was being mentored, but being the one to guide was really powerful for them. And so I say that to say that you can, you can ask for these things, and if someone says yes, then it's not just, they're selfishly doing it for you. It's meaningful to pour into someone also. Okay. So a couple of pro tips here, right? When you're asking for something like this, it can be a big ask, right? So respect people's time off the bat. It's a busy, busy world that we live in, and a lot of people are doing 2 to 3 people's worth of work, right? But when you have an opportunity to connect in this way and you make it known that you're considering their time as you ask, you have a greater chance of success. Make your request focused, right? Ask her what you need. Do your best to put in the legwork up front to, show that you're considering their time, that you're, doing your research. You'll have a better chance at getting the feedback that you're looking for. So make sure you're asking focused questions with, very clear, clear understanding of like what you're hoping to get out of that request, so that, they're more likely to be able to have the bandwidth to help you. Okay, and put the work in, right? No shortcuts. I kind of mentioned this earlier, but if someone's tying their name to you as a mentor or coach, or especially a sponsor where they're advocating for you to upper management, you want to make them look good, right? So put the time in, really give it some thorough attention, and remember that you're doing this for future you, right? So no one else is going to do that for you. So worth it to invest that time in yourself. And then lastly, don't take rejection personally, right? Sometimes you ask and people will say no, right? That's also a-okay, right? So remember, if you ask, someone says no, that's fine. People have every right to protect their time, just like you do. So if someone expresses they don't have time, make a note, move on to plan B. Okay, so now we're going to get into a little bit about what this means for you, right? And for your team, right? So touching first on, what do you get out of it, right? What does it mean for you? You get to develop yourself, right? You get to pour into yourself, which I don't know about you guys, but for me, that is a super motivating thing to do. I always feel really, really proud of myself when I've, poured into me and I can see some sort of return on that, some change, some improvement. Keep yourself engaged, right? Nothing like some novelty and some different perspectives to, keep you engaged, and having some goals, some new goals is super, super motivating. Discover your potential. You'll get to learn things about yourself in these sorts of relationships that you probably did not know that you were capable of or were even on your radar. So that discovery process is super, super fulfilling and gratifying. Become your own #1 fan. So if you are already, fabulous, keep that energy up. We love that. But if not, you can work toward that and learn to be your own best advocate. Boost your confidence. The more you grow, the less you'll second guess yourself, right? And the more right you'll feel in the work that you do. So that's a huge piece of this journey. Solidify your place as part of the tribe, right? So the more that you feel like you belong and act that way, the more other people will sense that about you too. Advance your career, right? Inherently, as you stretch into these new opportunities and skill sets and gain more experience, the more valuable you'll be as an employee, right? And then lastly, take your future into your own hands, right? There's so much power in feeling like you are choosing your path. So take those reins and steer yourself toward where you want to go. Huge, huge. And I just want to pause here and say, for any ladies on this call that have already done all these things, again, love that for you. I will ask you to consider how you can impart some of those skills to the others around you, right? So with that, we'll talk about what it means for your team, right? When people feel invested in and supported and part of the collective, right? And developed, right? So less stress. I think less stress is the key to all of the other things that I'm going to pull up on this slide. But truly, when people feel more right in what they're doing, they're going to be less stressed, they're going to be more confident, and that's going to pay off in dividends down the road. So less stress. You're going to have a more cohesive tribe when people feel more a part of that team. They're going to operate in that way also. Elevated performances, right? When you have someone being developed and when you have someone being developed, they're going to be more motivated to pour into their work, and they're going to think more clearly if they're not stressed. All these different butterfly effects. Happier employees, right? You want people to be happy to come to work. I know it's work, but we can enjoy what we do, right? So feeling more right in what we're doing is really, really key. All right, and then increase team dialogue. I love this one because when you have people that feel heard and supported, they're going to feel more empowered to share their thoughts, to share their ideas, and to have their voice heard, right? To contribute their ideas. So inherently that brings about better dialogue, better communications. Shared strategies, right? Again, when we're sharing strategies instead of holding them close to the vest, right? We all learn, we all grow. Obviously you don't have to listen to everything that everyone else says, but this option is there, right? And if we're not communicating, then it ends in that silo. But when people are sharing, they're more motivated to listen or more motivated to share themselves. Reduced absences. This comes back to like less stress, right? So when people like what they do and feel supported in what they do, they're going to want to show up more. They're going to be less sick overall. I think I might have that in a different section, but they're going to be more present, right, in the day-to-day instead of feeling like they need to change something or run away. They're going to feel more empowered to tackle what's in front of them. Okay. And then reduced staff turnover, right? Again, when people feel connected to their teams, connected to what they're doing, and they feel very heard and supported in that, they'll stick around, right? Increased productivity. This is a fun one, right? It goes back to exactly what I've just been saying of people that pour into when they feel capable of it, they'll pour more into what they're doing instead of getting bogged down by, I don't feel heard, I don't feel supported, my ideas aren't being listened to. When they have some strategies to cope with that, they're going to focus better on what they're supposed to be doing. And then overall, just greater job satisfaction, right? So people will feel more fulfilled when they feel a part of the story, right? So again, if you look at this and you're like, yep, I've done all this, I know this, like hair flip, love it, go off, girl, good for you. Please consider like how you can share this with the next generation or the people around you that maybe don't have quite those strategies, right? Okay, and just to very briefly touch on some closing thoughts. We're getting close to the end here, but I do want to call attention to one of my favorite quotes in existence from the lovely Brene Brown. She she's fantastic. If you don't know her, highly encourage you check her out. But she says, the bottom line, I believe that you have to walk through vulnerability to get to courage. Therefore, embrace the suck. I try to be grateful every day, and my motto right now is courage over comfort. I do not believe that cussing and praying are mutually exclusive. So I say that to say, keep stretching into new things, be vulnerable, find your courage, and really, it's a journey, right? Buckle up and look at how you can be a part of that. So lastly, it really is up to us to build the future that we want to see, and we all have a part in it. So remember to have grace with others, with yourself and with others, and keep looking toward the tomorrow that you want to see. Thank you. From there, we can go to Q&A.
All right.
My screen.
We don't have any questions yet, but if you guys have any questions, go ahead, put them in the Q&A and we will answer them. I did want to bring up, we put out a poll on our LinkedIn page last week.
Yes.
And we asked everybody if they had ever had a mentor in their professional life and how was their experience. So 81% of people said that it helped them a lot. 5% of people actually said, yes, I had a mentor, but it wasn't very helpful.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you kind of what you thought about being in that situation where you have a mentor, but it's not fulfilling. It's not helping you in the way that you expected it to help. What is your advice on that kind of situation?
That's a great question. Super glad that you asked. So I think there's a couple of pieces there. I think inherently there is a people element that maybe it just wasn't the right fit, right? And we're talking about some very vulnerable things among these relationships. So if you just flat out don't jive with a person, that can absolutely play a role. So that's the first piece. The second piece is maybe the type of mentoring that you're receiving is just not quite what you're looking for. So maybe you're looking more for someone that's more like a coach that's just going to give you some specific deliverables instead of talking about more of the fluffy stuff, right? But it could be just a matter of vocalizing that like you're looking for something different and coming to that agreement of like what is serving each of you, right? Sometimes I think there's also an element of sometimes, bandwidth comes into play where people get distracted and maybe they're not being completely honest with themselves about how available and present they're being. So I think that's something to absolutely pay attention to also, and just have the conversation, right? That's a good one. Thank you.
Okay, we got one question. You mentioned that Women of Flexo mentees are for those new to their job or the industry. Are mentors only for those in the beginning of their career? How do you establish a mid-career mentor?
Ooh, that's a good one. Thank you for that. So yeah, I think that mentorship, like I said earlier, it kind of comes back to that walking alongside someone who has walked that walk before, right? So I don't think it's necessarily specific to, you have to be like fresh out of school, or you can only have 2 years under your belt and then you should just know everything, right? we have definitely seen in the mentorship program, even women with 10, 15 years experience that were looking for a mentor with more experience in them. So maybe that equates to something like, more executive level mentorship versus, just kind of orienting, how does the flexo industry work, stuff like that. So again, I think it comes down to finding what you're looking for and finding someone that's a good fit for you, and asking the question. I think Women of Flexo is a really, really powerful outlet for that, in that the mentorship program questionnaire, when you're signing up for it, has kind of a little piece to say how long you've been in the industry. So they'll typically pair you with someone that has even more experience than you. I know that that's a very mindful piece of the pairing process, so that everyone gets something out of it.
We do have some more questions coming in. One question is, any advice on feeling no motivation to grow in your career and rather feeling like coasting through your career so you can live your personal life to the fullest?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
It's tough, right? Because like the world we live in is complicated for sure. And like there's a lot going on outside of professional lives. And then there's your personal life on top of that, right? So I think it comes down to finding how do I say this? How much energy you have in your cup, right? Like if you have like the bandwidth to be able to pour into your professional development pathway, right? Then like seek that. But if you're trying to force yourself into like, I'm going to get a mentor because I hate what I'm doing and I hate my professional life, right? Then maybe take a couple steps back and say, maybe I should look at some other options, like try and, I mean, truthfully, talk to a therapist, talk to a friend, like see if there's something underlying there. I'm not an expert on this whatsoever, so bear with me on that one. But I think it's a big thing to ponder, right? And I think having the space for connection can help with that, but sometimes you just gotta call it what it is and say, you know what, for right now, I'm gonna do what I need to do at work, and pour my energy into my family or myself in this other way. And that's okay too. You don't have to have a mentor, sponsor, and coach at all times. It doesn't make sense, right? We have different seasons of our lives and different things that come up, and I think it's really about finding what fits you in that current season. Great question.
Yes. Another question is, based on your experience, do you feel a female to female mentorship or sponsorship is more or less beneficial than a male to female? I come from a small business with limited female employees and zero in management above me.
That's a good question. So one caveat there, right? I think that it can be helpful to have someone that like looks like you and talks like you, that you'll feel very connected with. I think that that's a very important thing. Representation really does matter, but within your organization, I think it can also be really meaningful to have mentorship from someone within that current system. So I've had mentors that have been women, that have been men, people that looked like me and did not look like me, and I learned something new from each of them, right? So all that to say, I don't know that it's more or less beneficial necessarily. It's all about what you're hoping to gain from that relationship. So if you're looking to be mentored by a gentleman that's in your company, that can be really helpful for navigating the existing politics of that system, right? So that can be really huge. Really, really just comes down to what you're looking for out of the relationship.
And then one more. Do you see the younger crowd being hard to mentor or coach?
Oh, that's fun. Younger crowd. So I am a millennial. I will admit I'm a millennial. I have Gen Z cousins and I love them dearly. Um, I think there's a lot to say about different styles of communication, right? And if we're looking a little bit deeper, it probably comes down to motivation and how people feel connected, right? So I don't know if it's maybe it's harder, maybe it's I don't know. I struggle to say that it's harder, right? Because I think that with the right um type of communication, you can get through to just about anyone. Um, but yeah, that's tough. As long as they're showing up and they want to be there, then yes, absolutely you can mentor them and coach them, right? But it does come down to how they feel safe, how they feel supported, and how they feel connected. And then, motivation follows that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's more of how you communicate. Communication is a little bit different with generations underneath you than it is with your peers. So I agree with you.
Yeah, that's good. No, that's great to hear. Like truly, I think every generation, I'm glad you said that. I think every generation is going to have their own unique things that they bring, that they offer, and it's all about learning how to pivot to them. So if you're wanting to be a mentor, you can absolutely, be a mentor to someone younger than you, even if you don't quite know how to communicate with them. Great advice in my mind is to ask how they prefer to be communicated with, right? And reach that agreement.
Exactly.
It's fantastic.
All right, we have no more questions, but we do have a comment. Emily, you are amazing and inspiring. Thank you for the wonderful presentation.
Oh, this is so fun. Thank you so much, guys. This was a lot of fun to talk about. And truly, please feel free to send me questions. Really do encourage people to sign up to be a mentor or to be a mentee. There's professional and student mentorships. I can't remember if I mentioned this or not, but Alex Guyot and I actually co-mentored a student group together. So if you're a little bit unsure of if you have all of the guidance in the world for professional mentee, you can absolutely take on a group of student mentees with a buddy, and that's super fulfilling and fun. So absolutely encourage that, and hope that this brings about some clarity for some people as far as the mentoring, sponsorship, and coaching topics go.
And if you're interested in signing up, check out our LinkedIn page. There are posts with the links to this sign up form.
Fabulous. Very good. All right. Well, I think that will be it then. Thank you again so much for having me, guys.
Thank you, Emily.
All right.
Mhm. Great job, Emily.